Hello, everybody. Welcome to the regular business meeting for June 16th. Holland Squallen, Squamish Oakmeo. As always, we're gathered to do our work today on the traditional unceded territory of the Squamish Nation. Please be advised the council meeting is being live streamed, recorded, and will be available to the public to view on the District of Squamish website following the meeting. If you have concerns, please notify the corporate officer present at the meeting, which is, this case is Ms. Flamboudot. Council, can I have someone move adoption of the agenda, please? Moved by Councillor French, second by Councillor Hamilton. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We don't have any delegations or invited presentations today. So we're on to under item 3. So on to item 4 is unscheduled public attendance. If anyone has a matter that is urgent in nature and needs to be heard by council prior to the next regular council meeting, this would be your opportunity to identify yourself. Seeing none, we will move on to item 5, which is under public hearings, which is District of Squamish zoning bylaw number 2200-2011 amendment bylaw. This is a long title, which should give staff time to get set up. This has to do with the Oceanfront Lot 0 or Lot O density clarification, number 3221-2026, and District of Squamish Phase Development Agreement bylaw that deals with the same matter. So just to orient everyone in the room, we will first hear from, we will first have a presentation from our staff, and then council will ask clarifying questions, and then we'll open the floor to members of the public that wish to participate in the public hearing portion. And I'll have a script that we'll read when we get to that part to make sure we orient everyone with the process. So I'll turn it over to staff to run us through the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Herford. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Brian Daly, Planner with Community Development. Here tonight to present a public hearing for the Oceanfront Lands Phase Development Agreement, or PDA bylaw, and following the public hearing, consideration of third reading of that bylaw and an associated amendment to the zoning bylaw. At the May 19th, 2026 regular council meeting, bylaws 3221 and 3222 were given first and second reading. The Local Government Act requires that a public hearing be held after first reading but prior to third reading for any major PDA bylaw amendment. The Local Government Act also prohibits public hearings for zoning bylaw amendments where an OCP is in effect for the area that is subject to the zoning bylaw. The bylaw is consistent with the OCP. The sole purpose of the bylaw is to permit a development that is in whole or in part a residential development, and the residential component of the development accounts for at least half of the gross floor area of all the buildings proposed as part of the development. Bylaw number 3221, which is the zoning bylaw amendment, meets the above criteria, and a public hearing for the zoning bylaw amendment is prohibited. Bylaw 3222, which is the phase development agreement amendment bylaw, requires a public hearing prior to considering third reading, which is why we're here this evening. No changes have been made to the bylaws since they were given first and second reading on May 19th. The subject site is located at the southwest corner of the Oceanfront Peninsula. It is bound by the Cattermole Slough, Squamish Terminals, the Carbon Engineering Demonstration Center to the north, and 3 undeveloped parcels to the southeast, including approved development permits for an office building and for a mixed-use building with commercial at grade. As part of the previous OCP, PDA, and rezoning application, a 1.15 FAR maximum and a 207 rental unit housing limit was included in the density regulations for Blocks C and C1. The unit maximum was based off preliminary design drawings that had not been fully refined at the time. Proposed bylaws 3221 and 3222 proposed to delete the 207 rental unit maximum for the density regulations and instead rely solely on the 1.15 FAR maximum for residential rental tenure use to regulate density. The amendments will allow for an additional 42 rental units to be included as part of the proposed development. No other amendments to the existing zoning are proposed. To inform the community per policy, the application was posted to the district's development review, and a development sign was posted at the site. No comments were received, and no project information meeting was held. Notice of the public hearing was advertised in the Squamish Chief and delivered to adjacent properties. So following the public hearing, staff are recommending third reading for both the zoning bylaw amendment and the phased development agreement bylaw. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. Council, any questions through to staff before we move into the public hearing portion of the discussion today? Councillor Pettingill, go ahead.
Yeah, at the prior readings, I did have I think I made a comment that I would prefer to see a no gas covenant for all uses. I don't see any change there. So am I correct in thinking that as it stands, there'd be a no gas covenant registered on the residential uses, but not the commercial uses?
No, that there was not a, sorry. Sorry, just to clarify through the chair, there is no gas for the residential, but not for the industrial component of this project.
Okay, any other questions? Just before I open the public hearing portion, can you run me through or run us all through the piece around what we can take feedback on and what we're not allowed to take feedback on? There seems to be a piece here with the phase development agreement versus the rezoning, and just that's a nuance that I want to make sure that we fully understand.
Sure. So through you, Mayor, this is a tad odd, obviously, because the phase development agreement requires the public hearing. So that is what is subject to the public hearing. They're both amending. So within the phase development agreement lives a version of the zoning bylaw. So we're effectively amending the same thing in two different places. So the PDA is the only thing that is having the public hearing, but the changes are the same in both bylaws.
Okay, so, and we're looking for comments on specific to the changes, which is that change from removing the unit number and relying solely on the FAR calculation.
That's correct.
And just, I guess my question there before we go into the public hearing portion is, how is this matter handled throughout the rest of the district? Like, is it feels like this was a combination that we're looking to undo to be just one way. Does that align with how we do this, how this is articulated in other phase development agreements and our zoning bylaw more broadly?
Through you, Mayor, this is the only phase development agreement currently active in the district. So any other time this would be coming forward as a rezoning, there would not be a public hearing, because if, as the legislation states, if it's more than 50% residential, you're not allowed to have one.
No, sorry, I'll rephrase the question. I think it's more in the rest of our work, my understanding is we lean on the FAR as that's the regulation for what can happen on a site. And what the outlier here isn't that we're using proposing to use the FAR. It's that there was a unit count even at any point in this. Like so is that correct? The rest of our zoning bylaw speaks to FAR and doesn't mention unit counts. Is that correct?
I would say generally that's correct. There's certain instances where unit counts are included. For example, on the Upper Finch would be an example where a unit count was included because it's such a large parcel of land that a floor area ratio wouldn't necessarily be appropriate because it's so large. So for the most part, we rely on floor area ratios, but there are specific instances where a unit count may be required.
Okay, thank you. I think that's useful context. Yeah, did that trigger any other questions for council? I'll start with Councillor Stoner.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. Just one clarifying question, that the change in the removal of unit numbers doesn't change the potential or the requirement for the housing diversity mix that we're asking for in terms of bedroom unit count. So we're still achieving the potential for the number of 3 bedrooms and diverse housing forms from that perspective.
Yes, that's correct. There's no change.
Okay, any other questions, council? Okay, we will have an opportunity as everyone knows, following submissions to pick up any more questions. So I do have a script, so bear with me. I need to read this piece. So the public hearing is being held pursuant to the Local Government Act requirements to allow the public to present and to provide submissions to council in respect to this matter of the Oceanfront Lot O density clarification and the phase development agreement. That combined topic. Everyone present will be given reasonable opportunity to be heard. We want to ensure that no one is discouraged or prevented from making their views known, whether speaking in favor or against the proposed amendment. Therefore, I ask that members of the public maintain order and quiet during the hearing. Please do not applaud or interrupt any speech or action of members of council or any other person addressing council. Please ensure that your remarks are relevant to the matters contained in the proposed bylaw. This is not an opportunity for members of the public to have their questions answered by staff or by council. We're here to listen. Any questions or points of clarification can be directed to staff by contacting the planning department. Again, council's here to listen, and we will not debate the merits of the proposed bylaw with the public or each other during the hearing. Members of council may ask clarifying questions following the presentations. As I stated earlier, this meeting is being recorded and web streamed live, and the recording will be posted on the district's website. Media may be present, and the public can advise the media if they don't want their picture taken. Up to and as part of this hearing, the public has had opportunity to make submissions to council. If any submissions were received, they are available for review and have been included as part of the electronic agenda available on the district's website. We've had the presentation from the planning department. And now I'll open the floor to, we save a spot here for Squamish Nation officials. I don't believe we have any with us this evening. So I will then go to, we have an opportunity for, I'll now ask that the proponent or their representative to comment if they wish, after which everyone else will be given opportunity to speak. Yep, go ahead. So if you could start by introducing yourself, and you've got 2 minutes to address council.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Carlos Savarce. My address is 37749 Cleveland Avenue, and I am speaking on behalf of the proponent. As we just heard there, kind of a funny, truncated bit of issues that we can speak to, but I'll preface this by saying, you know, Oceanfront Squamish has over 2 decades of history in this community, started from the District of Squamish with an arm's length organization, has been in the planning pipeline for quite some time, and we're very fortunate to be the stewards to bring that project forward over the last 11 years. And things are happening down there, which is great. We built a park. We've built a few buildings. We want to build a lot more, which brings us to Lot O. So, you know, as it was atypical, I think, to put a unit count on the previous rezoning. I think it was done with the best intentions, and I really want to thank staff for working with us just to clarify that through this process. In layman's terms, we did a building layout. We thought we had a number of units. Those were the number of units presented at the rezoning. We refined that through modification of the building floor plate and jigs and jogs in the corridors, and we were able to get some more units. And in this market, additional rental units we see as a very good thing. That, of course, drove a higher parking requirement. So when you see the development permit, you'll see the parkade also increased in size, the amount of bike parking increased, the amount of storage was able to increase. And so just want to thank staff for helping us kind of reach these community goals when it comes to providing more rental housing. I'll put one little plug when you see the development permit. We did secure 1,000 square feet of space for the Arts Council to use. In that permit, that space was increased to 1,680 square feet, in addition to about another 1,500 square foot of outdoor patio space over top of the daycare building. So we were it was a bit unknown where we were going to put that space originally. We were going to put it in the light industrial units or somewhere else, but we found a really great spot for it. And we think that that place of prominence facing the Oceanfront Park is going to do well for that group. So given that the scope is so limited, I'll leave it at that. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next, I'll call on any members of the public. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to address council. I'll first call on speakers participating in person. Please raise your hand, wait to be recognized, and approach the podium. Details to participate by telephone or via the WebEx platform are available on the district's website. There is a moderator who will communicate with people participating online. So now I'll go to the room. Is there anyone that wishes to make a submission on this matter? No. I don't see anyone in the room. We'll go to our moderator to check and see if there's anyone online that wishes to make a submission.
There's currently nobody online.
I like to give folks online time to figure out which button to push, so I'll go back to the room. Is there anyone in the room that would like to make a submission on this matter? Not seeing any. And I'm looking to our moderator who's still giving me the negative on folks online
Yeah, there's actually nobody even in the waiting
in the
room.
meeting. Okay. Oh, perfect. Come on. Yeah, so come on up and we'll get you to stand at the podium and I'll give you a quick orientation and we'll get you underway. So so this is an opportunity to make your submission to council and then and council can decide to receive it for information or follow up with questions. So if you start with just stating your name and neighborhood, and then you have 3 minutes to make a submission. So the
Okay.
floor is yours.
Kathy Jarvis. I live in Garibaldi Highlands on Montrose Way. It's more of a question that I have just from what has appeared in the Squamish Chief recently. I'm curious to know how many exactly rental units are going to be in this project, because it says here, the PDA amendment proposes to delete the 207 rental unit maximum from the density, and this would allow for an additional 42 rental units. So do we know actually how many rental units are going into this development?
We'll be able to get that answer for you. You have some time on the clock if you'd like to.
Okay, that's the only question I have.
That's the piece for you. Okay. We'll go for a few more submissions and we'll go to
Okay.
council, see if we can get, if there's any other questions we can work to get answered. Is there anyone else that would like to make a submission? I'll take the opportunity to follow up on that question. With the FAR number, the size of the building hasn't changed, or the maximum allowable size hasn't changed with this. Could you give us the final unit count, even though we're not scoring the density that way anymore, but I'm sure that number exists.
It would be 249.
249. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to make a submission? And I'm looking to our online moderator as well. Nope. Okay. Seeing no other hands, I'm through my list. Council, any other questions for our staff before I move into our closing piece? No. Seeing as there are no further speakers, and I've asked council if there's any further information the planning department might provide in response to our submission we received. So now that everyone has been given a reasonable opportunity to be heard, it is a requirement that I ask 3 times if there's anyone else that wishes to speak before we close the public hearing. So for the first time, is there anyone who wants to speak or make a submission? For a second time, is there anyone who wants to speak or make a submission? And for a third and final time, is there anyone else who wants to speak or make a submission? Seeing none, I'll declare the hearing closed. Thank you very much for everyone that participated. Please note, council members are not permitted to receive any further submissions or hear either a proponent or an opponent to this application once the public hearing has been concluded. This means we can't speak to you out in the community or receive emails or phone calls on any of these bylaws until a decision on the bylaws has been made. Any and all communications from this point must be channeled to staff. Okay, council. I want to council, we have the opportunity to suspend the order and deal with this matter now, which I think makes good sense. So I'll move that we suspend the order and pull ahead the decision on readings. Sorry, I'm just looking for the number here. Where is it? 7, is it 7B? I guess it's that whole section 7B be moved, be dealt with now. Is that second by Councilor Hamilton? I think this makes good sense just for process. I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. So now we're on to this 7B, which is the consideration of third reading. Would someone like to make a motion? Moved by Councillor French, second by Councillor Stoner. Comments? Don't need to. Any comments, Councillor Stoner, then Anderson?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, I'm happy to support the motion on the floor. This really is, I think, more a technicality more than anything else, both in terms of the process of the public hearing at this point. If it was just the amendment to the zoning, we actually wouldn't be allowed to have the public hearing. But I really appreciate that folks came and participated in amending the phase development agreement. As we had previously heard and discussed the last time this came to council, it's unusual that we add unit numbers in our zoning bylaws. We typically regulate density using floor area ratios to provide a little bit of flexibility in order to ensure that we can maximize the number of units that are being provided that make sense on the site. That changes as a design of a site goes forward and is more certain over time. And we don't want to leave undevelopable land or undeveloped land just sitting there if there's the opportunity to provide more homes for people, especially when they're rental units. And at a later date, when a development permit does come forward, while we heard a little bit from the developer that there will be no changes, there's no changes in the zoning bylaw right now to amend parking or reduce the amount of amenities that are being provided. Those are actually being increased here. And so I think that this makes good sense. We know that the need for housing across our community is really high, but especially on market rentals and non-market rentals. And this project is looking forward to being able to provide an additional 40 of those with a complementary unit mix of 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 1 bedrooms that our community desperately needs. So I will support the motion on the floor.
Thank you. And just before we go to more comments, I just want to just double check with staff. We heard that there was a motion to consider third reading. Can we do these together? Do we need to do the rezoning and then the phase development agreement? I think the intent of the mover was to move them together, but I just want to double check with our corporate officer that we're on side with that so that we have good process.
Normally can do bylaws together if they're related to the same subject. Yeah, as long as zoning's first and then PDA.
So worthwhile check to make sure we don't have to go through any of these processes more times than we need to. I'll go to you, Councillor Hamilton, and then Anderson.
Yeah, thanks very much. I see this, a big piece of this for me is unifying the way we talk about the density in our zoning bylaws, moving away from unit counts and towards floor area ratios. Just makes good sense generally. And so I think this is, more of a clarification than a significant change in the actual density that will be available in that building. Thanks.
Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. I won't be speaking against the recommendation, but I would like to offer some comments, some cautionary comments regarding the topic of neighborhood interface, a topic that hasn't really been addressed recently. As I mentioned on May 19, the sub-area plan for the Oceanfront Peninsula did not propose housing for this part of the peninsula, and now we're proposing higher density housing. There are 2 covenants in the phase development agreement. They are titled K1 and K2. The one applying to this precinct is called Industry Covenant for Precinct 4. And it is to address neighborhood interface issues that may arise in between residential uses and other mixed uses and neighboring industry. So during 2015, Waterfront Industries spent $100,000 trying to communicate its concerns to the district unsuccessfully. It proposed a different neighborhood interface covenant than the one that we ended up with in the PDA. This was serious business. In fact, it had extended over several years trying to express these concerns. So the industry covenant proposed, in particular, and I won't go through the differences, but it does address that the requirement to advise that you're going to be moving into a place next to industry was to all owners and occupiers, initial and subsequent. That's not what the current covenant has to say. There's a number of differences. This covenant doesn't meet the standard that is found in the city or district of North Vancouver or Richmond, which was explored at the time. My main message here is that we need to think long-term about neighborhood interface, and I do know that the proponents, the developer, is thinking this way as well and has this in mind. We're thinking we have to plan for neighborhood interface with non-replaceable tidewater facilities important to stakeholders that are beyond Squamish, beyond our region. This is part of our long-term planning, is that neighborhood interface element, and it won't end here. We've got other housing to come, and not only in this part of the valley. We simply don't know how these industry facilities will evolve, and we should take this into account. Neighborhood interface and looking after it is in the interest of the district, the community, as well as those industry neighbors. Thank you.
I'm going to go on to Councillor Pettingill, and just a reminder to Council, trying to keep the comments to the decision at hand here, which is the specific to that unit count. I know it's hard for all of us to do that because we see the whole spider web of issues, but that's the matter that we're commenting on here today. Go ahead, Councillor Pettingill.
Well, I may try and test you here, Mayor. I unfortunately, I will not be able to support this. I think the specific change makes sense to me in terms of removing the unit count. But when this came through the first time, I raised concerns about the lack of a no gas covenant on the employment sections, and was hoping that we would find a way to resolve that because I think there's some give and take here, as reasonable as it is, and so for consistency, I don't. I can't quite get there. I understand from the proponent that there may be some future changes and some opportunity to revisit this, and I hope it is something we can then. I may or may not be in this chair at that point, but that will get revisited. But when I look at the things driving community safety, affordability, and so on, underlying it is some of these climate issues, which is really driving many of the challenges we're having today. So, just draw that line in the sand. I expect this will get supported anyway, so maybe a bit of a symbolic vote, but I think it's important. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on this? I think even the title, the clarification here, I think is worthwhile. I think that we're not changing the maximum size or lot coverage of this building. We're standardizing the language associated with it. So I look forward to hearing more about what that will mean in practice when we get to the development permit stage of this, but pretty easy for me to support at this point in time on the specific question that we're being asked here today. So I'll call the question. All in favor and opposed? Councillor Pettingill and Councillor Greenlaw opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. So we're going to go back on the agenda now. We're on to the consent agenda. Does anyone like to pull anything from the consent agenda? Go ahead, Councillor Hamilton.
I'd like to pull item 6DI, the council remuneration report.
Thank you. Councillor French.
And I would like to pull letter BII, Day of Municipal Significance, a letter from S. Stewart.
Great. Anybody like to pull anything else from what's left of our consent agenda? Councillor Pettingill?
Well, just a flag, I think I will probably declare conflict on 6BII when it comes up.
Okay, well, I'll make sure I give you the space for that when we get there. Thank you for that early heads up. So I'll move the remainder of the consent agenda. Second by Councillor Stoner. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll deal with the items pulled at the appropriate spot later in the agenda. So now we're on to 7A, which is our loan authorization and temporary borrowing bylaws. And we'll give staff a moment to get set up and they'll run us through a presentation.
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Rianne Sousa, and I'm the Director of Financial Operations at the district. I'm here today to present on the 2026 loan authorizations and temporary borrowing bylaws. For the community's background, a loan authorization bylaw is for long-term borrowing and a temporary borrowing bylaw is for short-term borrowing. The goal of the presentation today is for Council to give first 3 readings to these bylaws. The community charter is the legislation that a municipality is required to follow when entering into borrowing. Under the community charter, a municipality must adopt a loan authorization bylaw prior to entering into long-term borrowing, which is subject to an electoral process. There are 2 options for electoral processes, which are assent voting or a referendum, or an alternative approval process. Once a loan authorization bylaw is adopted, a temporary borrowing bylaw may be adopted up to the amount that is authorized under the loan authorization bylaw. To note, the maximum debt servicing a municipality can incur is 25% of revenues. The district's long-term financial planning guidelines and policies have limited this to 20%. For the community's background, capital project expenditures and funding are approved by Council during the 10-year financial planning process. The next step is the administrative process of adopting the loan authorization and temporary borrowing bylaws. Further, 2 loan authorization bylaws are being presented for first 3 readings. Bylaw 3251 provides a funding source for $1 million of flood protection upgrades. This project is to implement dike upgrades as recommended in the Integrated Flood Hazard Management Plan, most notably minor work and designs for the Squamish River Dike in Brackendale and the Sea Dike in downtown Squamish. Bylaw 3256 provides a funding source for $2.6 million of the residual waste long-term planning, design, and construction project. Staff recommend a loan authorization to fund expenditures that have been incurred in 2026 and are upcoming in the near term. Examples include clearing trees, building temporary roads, detailed design, permit support work, and project management. This slide represents if the full amount of the debt was issued for 20 years at an interest rate of 4.95%, which is the rate at the time of preparing the report to Council. The total annual debt servicing cost would be $307,000. As these projects were included in the 2026 to 2035 financial plan, adopting these bylaws will not increase the debt servicing beyond what was reported at the time of preparing the financial plan, which is 17%. If the full amount of the flood protection upgrades loan authorization bylaw that is funded by general taxation was borrowed at a 4.95% interest rate for a 20-year term, the estimated annual cost to a property owner per $100,000 of assessment value would be 45 cents for residential and $1.21 for business and other. If the full amount of the residual waste long-term planning, design, and construction bylaw that is funded by solid waste utility fees was borrowed at a 4.95% interest rate for a 20-year term, the estimated increase to solid waste utility revenues would be 3.2%. I'll next speak to the temporary borrowing bylaws. It is best practice to adopt temporary borrowing bylaws in addition to loan authorization bylaws. This is due to borrowing under a loan authorization can only be borrowed once the expenditures are incurred. Therefore, temporary borrowing provides short-term working capital to fund the projects until long-term borrowing can be issued. This slide represents if the district borrowed the full amount authorized through the temporary borrowing bylaw at the interest rate at the time the report to Council was prepared, which was 2.86%. The total average monthly interest payment would be $9,000. Following first 3 readings of the loan authorization bylaws, the next steps are the loan authorization bylaws are forwarded to the Inspector of Municipalities for approval. Once approved by the inspector, an electoral process is undertaken. Staff are recommending the alternative approval process. After the alternative approval process, council adopts the bylaws. There is then a 30-day quashing period. In regards to public engagement, the engagement started with the development of the 2026 to 2035 financial plan, which included consultation with the community. Further, project descriptions and details about the AAP will be shared widely through district communication channels to inform residents and business owners. It's staff recommendation that the loan authorization and temporary borrowing bylaws are given first 3 readings, which are detailed on this slide. This concludes the presentation, and I'll now turn it back to the chair.
Thank you very much. Council, any questions about these bylaws, the process that we're endeavoring upon? Go ahead, Councillor Stoner.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair. Your presentation speaks to an interest rate in the staff report of 4.95 for the loan authorizations. And then it also describes the actuarial adjustments to 3.6%. I'm just wondering if you can explain what that is and which percentage was used for the total debt servicing costs calculation.
The actuarial adjustment is, through the chair. The actuarial adjustment is due to the fact that when the district and municipalities make payments to the Municipal Finance Authority of BC, those principal payments are invested, and then the interest is given back to municipalities through the reduction of principal. So that's the estimated interest rate of 3.86% that the Municipal Finance Authority will be providing back to the district at the time of preparing the report.
Okay, and so the total debt servicing cost and the interest is calculated based on the 4.95%. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. And then I am just curious, this is our typical process and this is in our financial plan, so we have accounted for it. At what point do we reconsider based on interest rates rising in terms of how much we can manage in terms of debt payment? Is there kind of like a number that we would be like, oh, we should probably go back to the drawing board and reconsider whether this is worth issuing the loan authorization, and what would that sit at?
Through the chair, that's done annually through the financial planning process.
Any further questions on this? Are you ready to make the motion? Councillor Hamilton, are you moving the recommendation
Move the staff recommendation all for long-term borrowing
Okay, is there a seconder?
and short-term.
I'll second. Go ahead. Would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, thanks very much for bringing these forward. These are all, this is borrowing that we had agreed upon in the financial plan. So thanks for doing the due diligence to get it through to the point with the Municipal Finance Authority. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Stoner, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you to the chair. Happy to support the motion on the floor. This is just taking action on the financial plan that we did back in the fall and into January. And so this has been planned for, but it is still a really important step that we go through in terms of getting electoral approval to take on this debt for these particular projects. Annual flood protection and starting to plan for the expansion of our landfill are both really, really critical to the long-term services that we provide to our community. And so I think it makes good sense that we take on this debt in order to be able to provide those services in the long term.
Thank you. Any other comments? I made some comments earlier this afternoon that for those that were on this journey with us all day might sound familiar because I will recycle them here. But borrowing is an important tool, and not just because it makes these payments smaller, easier to manage cash flow, all those things that we would think about in our normal day-to-day life. But there's this concept that the people benefiting from the services that we're delivering should be part of paying for the services that we're delivering. And borrowing allows us to bring that concept forwards in the community. So when I look at these pieces here, the annual flood protection, the people, we're not just protecting the people and the taxpayers here today, but in future. And this is as the community grows and more folks are here to share the burden of those investments or to benefit from those investments, depending on how you want to look at it. This is how they can be contributing in the long term. So I think it is important on many levels that we pursue these initiatives. The decisions themselves as to which projects are funded and how do happen through our financial planning process that we've been through, and this is sort of a follow through of that financial planning process. But that concept of the folks benefiting from the service, contributing to the service, is really important to me. So I'm happy to see this move forward to a next step. Councillor Pettingill.
Yeah, I didn't take the bait earlier, but I think I have to this time. And I do support these loans. It makes sense for all the reasons spoken to. And I even somewhat agree with the idea of the people consuming and using the services, paying for them. But there is a cost, there's an interest cost. And so we can't ignore that. And I think the other layer we have here, we have been very aggressive with our infrastructure investments and knowing, two fire halls and public works and all that work we've been doing, so that we can get to some of the things that we hear a lot about, like Brenham Park and so on. And this is another tool to help us achieve that on a somewhat quicker timeline, maybe not as quick as people would like, but these things are all tied together. And we are lucky to have the Municipal Finance Authority that gives us reduced rates, but there is still that cost for doing this.
Absolutely. Seeing no other hands, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Although we're not done yet. Back over to staff for our next topic.
For community members that may have just joined us, my name is Rianne Susan. I'm the Director of Financial Operations at the district. Today I'll be presenting the 2026 Revenue Anticipation Bylaw for first 3 readings. For council and the community's background, the Community Charter of BC states that a council may, by bylaw, provide for the borrowing of money that may be necessary to meet current lawful expenditures. In order to do this, a bylaw referred to in the legislation as revenue anticipation must be adopted annually. The legislation recognizes that the main revenue source for municipalities is property taxation, which is due for collection the first working day in July. In addition, the district has significant expenditures on large capital projects that can spike its average expenditures from time to time. Although the district has sufficient cash flow, it maintains a line of credit with its financial institution, Scotiabank, to ensure it mitigates the risk of short-term working capital deficit. The line of credit that is maintained is $2 million. Scotiabank does not charge the district fees to hold the line of credit, and if used, the interest rate is what's referred to as the Scotiabank reference rate, which is currently 2.5%. It is staff's recommendation that the revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw is given first 3 readings. This concludes the presentation. I'll now turn it back to the chair.
Thank you. Council, we've been through this process annually for the past few years, but I always find things to learn every time. Are you moving? Councillor Pettingill has his hand. I think Councillor French is looking to move it. Question. Okay, I'll go to Pettingill and then French.
I'm wondering if staff can, I hope this isn't opening up a can of worms, but if staff can hopefully quickly remind me, for this sort of thing, it seems in some cases we can use loans from ourselves from different reserves for short-term things. Is the reason we can't do it here because the reserves take longer to get the money out, and so we need that quick turnaround of a credit line, or like why can't we use inter-fund borrowing, I think it's called, in this case?
Through the chair, reserves can't be used for operations. So this is for operating expenditures. And maybe ask the CFO to help me with the second part of this.
Okay. Just to answer the second part of that question, the interfund borrowing is for reserves, which is designated just for capital.
Thank you. Councillor French.
Thanks, Mayor Herford. I'm curious to know, in the last budget cycle, we did exactly this about this time last year. Did the district tap into that $2 million? Was it used? Was it accessed in the last budget year?
Through the chair, no, it was not accessed in the last budget year. However, we do have to adopt, or council needs to adopt a bylaw annually for us to continue to hold it.
Yep, great, thank you.
Excellent question. I'm glad we held there. Any other questions? Are you moving the recommendation? Councillor Hamilton moves the recommendation. Can I get Councillor French seconds? Go ahead.
Thanks very much. This sounds like one of those, it absolutely is better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So this makes, having this loan makes perfect sense. Thank you very much.
Councillor French.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Herford. I'm happy to hear that we didn't have to use it last year. And I suspect if I were to ask about the last 5 years, we might have the same answer. And if we need this, we need it. And we have it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Happy to support, as others have said. It's nice to have tools in your toolbox should you need to reach for them. And this is how I see this, exactly how I see this. So I'm happy to support, and it's there if we need it. So I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you so much. So we're on to adoptions now. And as per our normal practice, we do not have any presentations for these. These are bylaws that have been through all their readings, and now the T's have been crossed and the I's have been dotted, and they're ready for adoption. So first we have the District of Squamish zoning bylaw, number 2200-2011 amendment bylaw, which pertains to 40279 Government Road. This is bylaw number 3004-2023.
Mayor Herford.
Yes.
Let me just pull up my note on this. I'm in conflict or have the perception of a conflict of interest in relation to the property at 40279 Government Road, as one of the principals connected to this development contributed to my 2022 election campaign.
Okay, if you, we will come and find you. Don't go too far. Adoptions move quickly, but thank you for that. Okay, is someone ready to move adoption? Moved by Councillor Stoner, second by Councillor Hamilton. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Can someone go find Councillor French? I'm sure he hasn't gone far, but. Sorry for keeping you waiting, Councillor French. We'll move on now to the next is the District of Squamish bylaw notice enforcement bylaw number 2418-2015 amendment bylaw, designated bylaw contraventions and penalties, which is bylaw number 3240-2026. Moved by Councillor Stoner, seconded by Councillor Greenlaw. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have trying twin, I guess, or its sibling, the District of Squamish Municipal Ticket Enforcement Bylaw, number 1832, 2020 or 2004 amendment, designated bylaw contraventions and penalties. This is bylaw number 3241, 2026. Moved by Councillor Stoner, second by Councillor Hamilton. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Now we're on to the item 8A1, which is the Squamish Marine Safety Facility, Royal Canadian Marine Search and Rescue Station 4 request letter. Yeah, let's we're going to take a 5-minute recess and we'll reconvene. We need a 6-minute recess. We'll recess the meeting until 7 o'clock. Thank you. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're on 8A1, the Squamish Marine Safety Facility discussion. I will turn it over to staff to run us through the presentation.
Great. Good evening, council and community that's joining online. My name is Sarah McJanet. I'm the manager of community planning. Tonight, staff are providing, as requested by council, a response to Squamish Royal Canadian Marine Search and Rescue, or RCM SARS request letter received by council on December 2nd of 2025. This letter regards establishment of a marine safety facility at Woonayk Park. The report before you provides additional context on RCM SAR's request, including marine vessel moorage and associated training and support space, as well as the status of initial foreshore sea dike improvements under construction and future long-term planning for the park site. So, following receipt of MSAR's letter and direction of council on December 2nd, district staff hosted an in-person meeting in February with Squamish RCMSAR, along with our local RCMP and police services representatives, to discuss the request letter. And this was a meeting with the intent to expand staff's understanding of RCMSAR's latest interests and needs and exchange information about Woonayk, the Sea Dike Park project that's nearing completion, including the technical requirements and significant costs for the design, major permitting coordination process, and installation of in-water infrastructure. So at that meeting, staff confirmed there is no motorized vessel moorage within the design, and that ongoing network park planning will be occurring as part of our 2027 Parks and Recreation Plan update. We also at that time reiterated municipal strategic priorities and many fiscal constraints, and that we currently don't have capital budget in our long-term financial plan for a marine-focused facility at this time. In terms of RCM SARS Station 4, their identified needs and request, as you know, RCM SAR is a not-for-profit volunteer-based organization, and they operate in close conjunction with Canadian Coast Guard, but as they are a non-governmental entity, RCM SAR receives limited government funding from Coast Guard for training and fuel costs for a portion of the year. Station 4 currently moors their vessel at the Squamish Harbour Authority Government Wharf. However, this is not considered permanent moorage, and they have limited storage space in a sea can and trailer on the adjacent upland, and that is privately owned. Station 4 has been actively fundraising for 5 years for a new vessel, boat shed, and training facility. A major barrier is lacking on-water marina space. MSAR's needs for a combination boat shed, training space, and secured moorage was something that was previously identified for the district and acknowledged in our community engagement that we undertook with the Downtown Marine Access Review, and that was endorsed by the district in 2024. And I can say that integration of marine access is an ongoing topic with marine interest holders within existing private marinas, and also for future discussion as part of future waterfront development and park sites. So RCMSAR is looking specifically to partner with the RCMP and GroundSAR to review and establish a water safety facility as a shared base for response in Squamish, including space for the RCMP patrol vessel that is forthcoming for Squamish RCMP, and SAR also has a swiftwater jet boat as well. And there's some really great examples of shared facilities in BC. RCMSAR sees the water lot fronting Woonayk and the east end of Main Street as providing the most feasible location for a joint facility, and they have made a specific request for the district to engage in conceptual water lot planning to accommodate a water safety facility with secure moorage, and engage in with technical consultants to advance that process. For context and clarity, the in-water program for Woonayk Park at the time of the sea dike construction prior to 2020 includes foreshore works in this rendering, as you can see, and as you've probably noticed out on the water. So it's got the new dike, intertidal habitat enhancements along the sheet pile wall. There will be a new waterfront walkway, and the new non-motorized public dock and gangway has been installed, and it is already in the channel. Vessel moorage, as mentioned, has not been designed to be accommodated as part of the public recreational dock, and staff have highlighted very significant costs for engineering, design, and permitting that the district went through for this project to date. As noted, there's no available project budget for further site-specific water lot design at Winnaick. However, the Parks and Rec Master Plan is scheduled for 2027. The scope is under development, and staff can confirm that the Parks Plan update will look to integrate the many hectares of waterfront parks that have been developed since the last Parks Plan was created, and use programming and infrastructure that could be supportive of marine safety facility can be reviewed as part of that. This is a quick slide just to show the recommendation 3.4 in the Downtown Marine Access Review, which called to examine and engage on options for integrating long-term infrastructure and support space for marine transportation and safety servicing community, marine sector, and employment areas. And as mentioned, since the endorsement of this Marine Access Review, staff have continued to engage and facilitate discussions wherever opportunity arises. And as noted in the report, with the new community agreements policy that was established in 2025, in future, the district will be looking at a pathway for formally considering community-led proposals, providing community-based services, operations, or capital projects that are aligned with the district OCP, our strategic plan, and master plans, and that increase community capacity and benefits to the community. So staff have suggested this pathway as an option to encourage RCM SAR to build partnerships with RCMP and SAR and work on developing a proposal for potential support for project planning and design in the future. The recommendation that's in the report tonight is that Council direct Squamish Royal Canadian Marine Search and Rescue to the District of Squamish Community Agreements Policy process for consideration of future operating and capital support for community-based services as part of a future municipal intake process. That concludes the presentation, and I welcome questions of Council. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start with Council questions. Go ahead, Councillor Pettingill.
Just a bit of context, if staff knows, and I'll avoid a rant on provincial supportive land-based search and rescue. With marine-based search and rescue, is there a pattern or typical sort of source of funding, whether it's municipal, federal, provincial, or a mix? It seems that unlike land-based, this might bring in the feds even more, but I'm just wondering if there is sort of a normal or a typical.
Thank you through the chair. That is a great question. I don't think there's a typical funding kind of framework for marine search and rescue. There's probably multiple sources. So that would be something that staff would have to confirm with marine search and rescue and bring back to council in terms of that full-blown funding framework.
Thank you. Councillor French.
Thanks, Mayor Herford. So I'm thinking ahead to assuming the staff recommendation is supported tonight. Our friends at RCM SAR are very good at doing what they do on the water and keeping people safe. And I don't really have great insight into their administrative and abilities and knowledge of our systems. So what potential supports could the district provide to the society if this is approved tonight to help them get through to next steps after this?
Through the chair, in terms of supports for a proposal, certainly staff for any community group, nonprofit, or landowner, if somebody's coming forward with a proposal for in-water infrastructure in this case, we can provide guidance and point to requirements and the different types of permitting that is necessary for, and that comes from experience also, just having gone through all of that with the Winnipeg project. So we have stepped through some of that at a high level with our CMSAR to highlight the variety of different approvals that were required for in water infrastructure within the channel. So Transport Canada, DFO, Fish Act authorization. There's also consideration for Sea Dike, and then, as mentioned, the navigation pieces. Those are the big ones. But we would, for any interested party that wanted to know about development of water infrastructure, we can provide that high level information.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, Council? Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. I'm curious about the timeline that might be the scenario for RCM SAR and what of a war chest they have. They obviously do, as an organization, have been fundraising for some time, have some capabilities in that regard. Do you, Ms. McJanet, have some idea of if we're going to use the community agreements policy venue, what kind of timeline are we looking at? And reason why I ask is because there may be other options if other integrated facilities and grant opportunities may be in the picture. Do you have an idea what do RMC SAR, I'm sorry about the acronym, what do they see as a timeline that's preferable, realistic for them, and what can they bring to the table themselves? If you may have any comments on these matters.
Thank you. I'll just speak to the overall timing. Certainly, when we initiated the Downtown Marine Access Review, that was several years ago already, and we were starting to understand from community concerns around limited marine access opportunities. So we were trying to capture all those. But the reality is that a lot of the additional planning that still needs to happen for, especially for waterfront sites and for that waterfront park, there's still a lot of things that are up in the air that we would want to better understand. And so on the timing end, the Parks and Rec Parks and Rec plan update will be a really important opportunity to look at the programming opportunities for that lot in particular, but also other sites as well. There are other waterfront lands too, and there could be potential to situate a future marine facility elsewhere. So we haven't fully determined that that is necessarily the best and only site where this marine safety facility could go. So there is some additional conversation and programming and use considerations that we need to step through. In terms of the community agreements policy, my colleague Patricia Ng is here also and can maybe speak a little bit more to that broader picture for community agreements, but it's definitely something that does take time to step through. There are no rapid pathways, I would say.
Thank you. Through the chair, Patricia Ng, Economic Development Officer, speaking to the piece on community agreements policy timing. The plan is to open the community initiated process for the community agreements policy. And we are currently aiming to open intakes in the fall of 2027. And that would be for approval in the financial plan of 2029. But yes, we would get the intakes in 2027. And then as my colleague, Ms. Janet, pointed out, we would start that process to look at all the different plans that need to be put in place and do feasibility studies. But that would be the initiation, and it could take quite some time to look at the feasibility.
Thank you. I'll follow up then with my second question on have we or should we not consider infrastructure grant programs? Now, our staff are the expert and review these opportunities all the time. And from past experience, I've been advised, hold on, Councillor Anderson, we've already got plans for that grant program. But the one I have spotted is the Community Works Fund short sea shipping category, where there's money available for new dock facilities for passenger ferry. Now, at this site, or at another, conceivably, we may be looking at passenger ferry proponents coming forward. In fact, we've had 2 passenger ferry companies look at One Air Park. And the dock the ferry dock used to extend out from Main Street. When I've asked in the past, Mr. Rolston, who has spoken to the dike plan issue, has assured me that this new dock design, as we've seen in your plans, can be supplemented with facilities to cater to different types of vessels. Ms. McJanet, my question here is, should we not be considering infrastructure grant programs? And that is one, but perhaps there are others. Have you given this some attention? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Through to the chair, we are not actively looking at infrastructure or granting programs at this time. We have taken in the request from RCMSAR and provided context and looked at opportunities and pathways where we could start to host these conversations, but we're not actively spending staff resources at this time searching out for grants at this point.
My third and final question concerns the pathway that you've elaborated. One, of course, element is the community agreements policy, but the other one was the planning scenarios that we're looking at. But it seems that you are addressing or referring to the Parks and Recreation Master Plan rather than a marine planning, which might include more commercial marine facilities. And it would seem to me that there could be we need to look at that bigger picture. So is there not merit in looking at, for example, the marine impact study as a context or a lens to look at this picture? And also the Marine Gateway focus area of the Marine Action Strategy. So I'm concerned that we're looking at recreational boating when we in fact might be able to marry this marine safety facility with a more commercial, say, ferry or other type of thing that might not be considered in a Parks Recreation Master Plan. I suppose I've made a comment there, but perhaps if you might catch my drift, I'm wondering that we're channeling ourselves toward paddlers and non-motorized planning initiatives when we need to be looking broader at a more integrated picture of marine planning. Thank you.
Thank you. With the Marine Access Review, that actually was not focused solely on public recreational access. So there was business, commercial, industrial access needs that were also highlighted within that. And certainly in terms of holistic marine planning, we don't have an active project outside of the marine impact study work that we're still hoping to get underway this year and searching for. And we will be looking to pursue Pacific Can grant funding for that marine impact study. But beyond that, we don't have, as part of our current work plan, any other additional kind of commercial focused investigations or planning. The parks planning for Wuniak is specific to the Wuniak Park site request. So because we're doing more additional park planning, that's why that's mentioned within the staff report. So for site-specific planning for waterfront parks, a bunch of that can be looked at through the Parks and Rec Master Plan update next year. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Just in follow-up, of course, transportation, the wording in the zoning bylaw, marine transportation, that specifically refers to ferry. That was the intention when the organizations came forward and advocated that for Wuniak Park. It has been our ferry terminal for over 20 years. In follow, just another point, you raised the marine impact study. Is it then the case to staff that we do not have a fund or a funding solution for that yet? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. On the topic of the marine impact study, we do have 50% of that budget is in our financial plan. And so the other 50% funding source is we're seeking grant funding for, and that was in the financial plan.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any additional questions here, Councillor Hamilton? And just if we could try to keep it to what we do with this letter is the question of this evening. I just want to try to keep us as focused as possible. But over to you.
Yeah, thanks very much. I certainly see the connection to the community agreements policy here. In my mind, Marine Search and Rescue is an excellent example of a community organization that we want to make partnerships with and develop together with. There's another element here, though, I think that that the community agreements policy may have troubles tapping into, which is the real estate side of this. Is there a scope or reason, or should we be flagging this somehow for our real estate and facilities master plan, so that when we are thinking about all of the real estate moving forward, this is one of the puzzle pieces that we'll be looking at on a habitual basis to see if we can fit it somewhere?
Through the chair, the real estate and facilities master plan, when it was originally created, did highlight a number of kind of community-based needs, and water-based facilities or amenities and access was highlighted in an appendix in that real estate and facilities plan. And with a lot of the downtown work and looking at different civic uses, et cetera, and key sites in the downtown, there's a bigger picture and a holistic picture around key needs in the community as well. So this being Wunik being one of the key municipal sites in the downtown, certainly the community has surfaced interests in public access, ongoing, and marine safety as well within the blind channel and for that site. So it's definitely captured both in the real estate and facilities master plan as well as the downtown marine access review. So it's recognized in those for ongoing planning.
Yeah, so I see how the general need is there, but do we have a place? Like, for example, we had a conversation earlier today with the library and about how they can integrate their plans into our planning department. As our planning department sees development proposals, they can talk to developers about where things might fit. How can we capture this specific need in our planning department's process of keeping their eye on this particular need throughout the development process?
Thank you for the question. For council's clarity, the key strategies and documents that we've produced for the downtown are front and center in all of our conversations. So as we discuss opportunities or redevelopment with, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, with marine interest holders, leaseholders, waterfront landowners, we're always looking for opportunity to help support and draw linkages between identified community needs, especially for these waterfront lands. So staff are involved in a lot of the pre-applications, ongoing conversations with landowners, and so we're always bringing forward community needs front and center.
I'll take a pass at answering. Another way to answer that, I think, is that for me, the library is probably the only, one of the only external pieces where we have quite a clear, well-documented community agreement. Like, the governance is all there. I think they're a distinct category, and I do see part of this recommended course of action here, the community agreement process, really a way that other community groups, such as we're discussing here today, can essentially end up in a similar relationship. So that's sort of how I've been rationalizing that piece internally, just for what that's worth. Councillor Stoner.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, appreciate the dialogue that's been created in the report in front of us. If I can just clarify, so like Honaic Park is well on its way. The design has kind of been finalized. We're through most of construction. If RCMSAR and RCMP were to show up with all the money necessary tomorrow, would we entertain them doing the technological components required to review if it would be feasible to put this facility there, or is it like actually not possible given where we're at in the project?
Through to council, with any proposal that would come forward, it would have to be resourced. So it would be something that we would bring to council if opportunistically, if a proponent came forward, and that would run through the chain and come for resourcing consideration. But as mentioned, right now, we don't have this piece of work. Like the need is identified. We don't have any resourcing that we've been able to put to it to date. That's why it's not in the financial plan. And there's more planning that needs to happen as well. So there's additional planning that's needed, and then it would have to be resourced. But certainly opportunistically, if there was major grant or an opportunity to fund something like that, then we would bring that to council for consideration in the future.
That's helpful. Thank you. And then I guess I'm thinking like across the water, if I remember the design and the drawings properly for Sea and Sky, there's intended to be some moorage available there. Is there a possibility that this site could be located on the other side of the water?
Through to all of council, that is a possibility, although we haven't had any detailed design discussion. So as part of the Downtown Marine Access Review, there was actually a really large table where we inventoried all of the existing facilities and also future planned facilities. There are limited number of locations where a sort of a larger boat shed, for example, could be situated, but there's always potential to engage in further discussion with future waterfront facility planning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you mind just putting the recommendation up again, just so we can work that? And so, council, I'm ready to move this with a slight change. I'd actually like to remove. Oh, that's okay. That's so I'd like to strike consideration process for consideration of, and then strike future operating and capital from the motion, and then I'll speak to it if it's seconded. The intent is it's more open. Thank you. So Councillor French seconds. And so in making this, in our conversation today, I've heard of other ways that we can support outside of operating and capital. Those things are would still be intended to be captured with this motion, but just to show that this is something that needs to be contemplated in future, and support may look like, a nominal lease in a water lot. It may look like if there's an opportunity to maybe apply for a grant they can't, or those types of things, as well as the operation or capital, recognizing that dollars, operational or capital dollars, are lean and will continue to be based on our projections in our 10-year financial plan. So I want to set realistic expectations there, but I wanted to sort of just cast a little bit wider net of ways that we could support and potentially facilitate things happening. Support can also look like potential prioritization and planning processes, and all those types of things. So I feel like that's as much as it's removing language that's very important, operating and capital, it's actually meant to open up the ways that we can support an initiative like this. Should a future council or an opportunity come to a future council to do so. So I'm supportive of getting this facility, or a facility like this, coming to to serve the community. It's a need, and I think this casts a wide enough net to figure out so we can work collectively to figure out how best to realize that over time. So that's the rationale there for the change. I'll go to Councillor French.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Herford. I'm seconding this because as our marine access increases and grows, we need for the Royal Marine Search and Rescue crew to have functional infrastructure to be able to do what they do. So I fully support working with the organization to improve marine safety infrastructure in our community.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. I support the mayor's initiative as I take it, introducing a little bit more flexibility to the approach we're taking. And because I am concerned about the need for not only a more flexible approach, adaptive approach, open approach, but an integrated plan, including for passenger ferry and visitor vessel mooring facilities, which could work together with the facility that we're addressing here tonight. I think, in my opinion, the better policy lens to consider this, to work with, is the Marine Action Strategy of 2018 and its Marine Gateway set of recommendations. The Short Sea Shipping Program of the Canada Works Fund is available, and it does include funding for passenger ferry dock construction, new dock construction. That requires planning on our part. How do we integrate this and so on? But I just put that out there. A couple of comments for council. Last fall, we met with the Minister of Jobs and Economic Growth regarding Squamish being missed out as in an economic trust region. Well, the Island Coastal Economic Trust each year funds dock facility construction in 6 figures. There's about 10 projects every year on the coast of BC funded through that Regional Economic Trust that we are not a part of. It's something that we should continue to keep in mind in our lobbying with the province. Finally, I think that we, again, to council, we can't be neglectful of marine planning. The needs and the issues are only growing, and the need to consider them in an integrated way, and I'm satisfied that our staff see see this picture as well, is so important to consider ongoing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments on this? Go ahead, Councillor Stoner.
Yeah, I will support the motion on the floor. I think that this is a good pathway forward to continue to ensure that we are supporting Royal Canadian Marine Search and Rescue in a variety of ways possible as we go forward. It's interesting as we're a week out, I think, from celebrating the opening of the Squamish Search and Rescue new Search and Rescue base and the amount of effort and collaboration that went into that. I will be very frank, sitting around this table, we haven't spent as much time chatting with the folks at RCMSAR, but it's not because you aren't doing really vital work. There's a lot of pieces here, though, for me that in terms of understanding where the RCMP piece fits in, we'll likely be paying for that facility through our contract with RCMP anyways. So ensuring that it actually is achieving all the things that our community needs is a really critical component as we move this forward. To pick up on Councillor Pettingill's slight earlier of where else is there also advocacy that we can be pushing back to the provincial and federal governments to ensuring that they are also supporting this really vital work in our communities that we know is so critical for everything from tourism to economic development, especially as we reorient our community to being more ocean forward and ocean focused. So happy to support this way forward and hope that it is the beginning of a fulsome collaboration going forward.
Thank you. Seeing no other hands, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. So moving on, we do not have any late agenda items. We don't have any correspondence action requested. We are on to items referred from the consent agenda. Which correspondence. So I believe it was Councillor French. You pulled item 6B2, the downtown Squamish BIA. Oh, yeah, Councillor Pettingill. Thank you.
Yeah, on this item, I know I will be volunteering, but my role may go beyond that this year. And so just to avoid any possible conflict, I'm going to, because I may end up with a pecuniary interest, I guess. So just out of an abundance of caution, I'm going to step away from this discussion.
Okay, thank you for that. We will come and find you when we're done dealing with this matter. Councillor French.
So this is a request that council take an action to support the July 1st Squamish Together celebration. And based on the contents of this letter, I would like to move that the Squamish Together celebration taking place on July 1st, 2026 be designated a municipally significant event, and that staff be directed to provide written confirmation of the designation to the organizers. And if it's seconded, I'll speak to it.
Seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. The celebration scheduled for July 1st is an event that's well worth supporting. I attended last year and it was smooth. It was an excellent gathering and it went very well. Having a place for folks to have a glass of wine and a beer to celebrate the event, I think will enhance the day. And I fully support the event planners and trust their judgment in putting this gathering together.
Thank you. Other comments? Yeah, I'm speaking in support of the motion. I think this designation is appropriate for the event. I think there was a number of years where July 1st had a bit of a, we'll say, an identity crisis inside of the community, and that was before the current format. And I think that the community's grown to really appreciate this day and the excellent work of the Downtown Squamish BIA to put it on. So I'm happy to see this this advance and receive this designation. I do think this process is a bit odd, as it's a requirement for liquor licensing, which is a strange anomaly, but we're here to do. I think it's appropriate we do our part in of these processes that don't always make sense, and I'm happy to see this move forward. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Can someone get Councillor Pettingill for our next piece? And as we find Councillor Pettingill, I'll go to, it was Councillor Hamilton that pulled 6D1, which is the Councillor Remuneration Report.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I pulled this council remuneration report, which was a report we requested a ways back. And so it's come to us for information. And I think it'd be valuable for us to put this onto a committee of the whole agenda at some point between now and the end of July. This is a conversation that's important to have before the next council and before people are considering who they want to be representing them, sitting them in these seats. So it's a valuable conversation to have before the end of July. I'll have a motion to that effect if there's any questions.
Okay. I think I'd welcome the motion.
So then the motion is that the council remuneration report be brought to a committee of the whole meeting for council discussion before the end of July.
Second by Councillor Stoner. Thank you. Any other comments on this? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Where are we? We're through all the correspondence. No business arising from the minutes. Any no notice of motion. Open question period. If anyone in the room would like clarification related to agenda items discussed here today, this would be your opportunity. Seeing none, council or staff announcements. Who would like to kick us off here? Councillor French.
Thanks, Mayor Herford. On Sunday, June 7th, I had the honor of speaking in Junction Park just before the Pride Parade started. It was the second annual Pride Parade this year, and I thought that it was a huge success. The District of Squamish was well represented in the parade, at the social gathering in Junction Park afterwards, and along the parade route itself. And I want to thank Ms. Glende for being on the district parade float and showing that commitment to diversity is being led from the top of this organization. And I really mean the top, because Ms. Glende's mom was in the cab of the truck that was pulling the float. Councillor Anderson also jumped onto the float while it was in motion. Impressive. And thank you to Councillor Pettingill for supporting the audio team that provided sound for the music and the speeches in Junction Park. And so I'm just tonight going to quickly reiterate my brief message to those that were gathered at Junction Park before the parade. I was at the event to normalize being insert label here. And labels that we could insert here might include ally. That's a label I might give to myself. Or two-spirit, like my friend Trevor, who was one of the main organizers of the event. Another label we could insert is gay, transgender, queer. You get the idea. I'm on a mission to make those labels and others like them normal, because the one label that we all share is human being, and that's the most important one of all. We all deserve to be treated equally as humans, whatever additional labels we self-impose or others assign.
Thank you for that message. And I was disappointed I wasn't able to attend. So thank you for those that were able to. Other updates? Go ahead, Councillor Pettingill.
Yeah, a couple things. I'll sort of pick up on the Pride Pride Day. This last Saturday was the New Queens Old Town New Queens drag show. Is my second year being able to attend. It was really fantastic this year. Some great photos. At one point the sun was just setting perfectly, and there was the fake smoke and the lights coming through the museum, and it's quite a spectacle and just a lot of fun. Families, and just a good inclusive time held by all. So thank you to everyone that made that happen. Earlier in the day, I had another chance to do some sound duties for Knit in Public Day, which was a lot of fun. It was just so there's an open mic and just people in Junction Park hanging out. We had a bunch of tents up, just sitting in the shade, knitting, and just people walking by like, oh, what's going on? And oh, there's a guitar there, and getting up and playing or singing. So it was a lot of fun, a really exhausting Saturday for me, but a lot of fun. And then it is sound season, it seems. So amped in the park, we're having our sort of practice run this Thursday. And then a week Thursday, the free concerts in Junction Park every Thursday evening starts around 7 o'clock. We get there a fair bit earlier, but we'll be setting up. And then usually the circus is there, and it's just a fun day, great performances. And so all summer long, Thursday nights, Junction Park is the place to be.
I'm looking forward to that. I love Thursday nights in the park. Any other updates, Council? Go ahead, Councillor Stoner.
Yeah, just briefly, I'll highlight that on Thursday last week, we had the opportunity to tour Squamish Can's new Harvest Hub that is located on Loggers Lane on a municipal piece of land. We have provided them a lease, which is a space for folks, farmers, small-scale food providers, to basically do like a drop-off location where their customers can come and pick up on a code basis for community-supported agriculture boxes and things like that. It's really cool to see that up and running. It's a really beautiful space that they've built. And after touring that little site there, we were able to walk over to the 55, where we had a bit of a celebration of the year that they've had operating in the community kitchen there, which has also been facilitated by a lease that we've provided to them at a nominal rate. But they have then amplified that with bringing in a whole bunch of money to upgrade a lot of the kitchen facility. And over the course of this past school year, they've been able to provide 70,000 lunches across our schools. In addition to the breakfast program that they run, a food selection program in the fridges in a number of the schools. And I think the other win-win here is that it's also been activated in order to then provide lunches and catering to the 55. And so The 55 is now again an active space for our seniors community, and I think others are starting to get wind that it's probably one of the best and cheapest lunches in town, and so more folks are attending. I think it is such an amazing story just from the impact it is having, not only in the school food program, but again, going back to that connection of where food brings community together, and activating the 55, which I think was a piece that we all kind of were heartbroken by when we weren't able to find an operator for that commercial kitchen. It's so great to see that it is up and running again and bringing folks together. So a huge thanks to everybody from our staff to the folks at Squamish Can and the 55 seniors folks who have made those partnerships come to life and really driven community through food.
Thank you for that update, and thank you for attending that. That was on the list of double booked times. So I'm really happy that those things are up and running. And the 55 kitchen, the impact that that's had. I'm thinking back to the Christmas dinner being able to be catered from the kitchen as sort of I think was intended in the visioning of that facility way back when. So it's great to see that work. Any other updates, Council? I've got a few. In sort of the first week of June, I attended the Federation of Canadian Municipalities conference in Edmonton. Just as a foreshadowing, I will make a more formal presentation to council there, but it's great to spend time with elected officials from across the country. A very interesting time to be in Alberta at a political event, as there's for any number of reasons, including the motion or the folks that are working towards a referendum on whether they should continue to be in the country. So a pretty interesting time to be there. And a lot of people working on a lot of great things. So there were study tours, there were sessions, sort of sharing community learnings and so on. So I'll be bringing some of those learnings forward at a future meeting because it was really, really productive time. So I'll that's more of a foreshadow than an update, and we'll do the proper update when time allows. On the fast forwarding a little bit to the 11th, we had a group from the Philippines here, and sorry, I was trying to remember the name of the program. So this was the Climate Risk Institute brought a delegation of 22 electeds from the Philippines, and they've been in Canada for I think it was about a week. We were maybe day 5 or something like that, and they've been to Victoria, Vancouver, and various sites in the Lower Mainland. And we had myself and Councillor Pettingill and Councillor Anderson for a portion of the journey were able to attend. We had Mr. Pickett's to present, and we were looking at really the way that we've sharing the way that we've mitigated risks in community investments that we've made. So of course, Oceanfront is a big part of that. Honiak Park was a stop, and then we also wanted to make sure that we're presenting not just the look at what we've done and what we can do together, but also these are the ones we haven't solved yet. So we went to CHM to talk about the challenges there, both physically from a infrastructure perspective, but also the story and the historical wrongs that we're trying to right through the as we take on our those investments there. Lots of an amazing group, really engaged and rather hilarious and also knowledgeable group, and they're so it's great to be able to spend some time with those folks, showing off our community and sharing how we think about these things and how we get them done, and talking about learning about how local government is funded in these other countries. It's very very different context, but also we're grappling with the same with broadly the same issues. Some of the areas were mountainous. We're talking about, the flood risk from rivers and overland debris flow, and right down to coastal issues. So I think these things are just incredibly valuable to share, the ways that we, not just the technical expertise, but that piece of culture sharing of how we get things done and really at the end of the day, we're all broadly dealing with the same issues with slightly different contexts. So thank you, Councillor Pettingill, as a driver making that happen. Thank you for your work on that. It was a great day that evening. I was able to attend the House on Secondary commencement at Brennan Park. I have to say it was this year's my 30th anniversary of graduation on the same stage. So it was quite, but it was great to be there with, despite that being a bit of a challenge for my mind, it was great to be there with with a huge group of talented folks, and as they conclude their time in high school and move on. So thank you to everyone that put that on, and congratulations to all the grads. Then on, I think it's the 13th. Yeah, so on the 13th, so I was just on Saturday, there was at the BMX track, Squamish BMX were putting on the Sea to Sky Nationals, and I was invited to speak. It was a great event. Competitors from all over, not just all over Canada, but well into the US, and so it was great to see really the BMX scene in Squamish thriving, and that doesn't just happen. It takes a group of volunteers to continue to make sure that that all the things get done. And it was quite touching. There's a tradition at big BMX races to do, they usually call it a flag procession. So at the start, they will do sort of a slow roll of competitors will come down and do a lap of the track, often carrying a flag or something like this. And this time, there was a wonderful moment to recognize the late, great Todd Pope, who was a longtime, amongst other things, a longtime announcer at the BMX track. And for that procession, they cut to a compilation of Todd announcing as it happened. It was quite touching. So I think it was great to be able to spend time with the folks there, and as we all remembered our friend Todd. So speaking to folks after the event, they had a smashing weekend there, yeah. So thank you to them for the work they do to put that on, and for inviting me to participate. And I think I'm going to leave my update there. So next, we don't have a motion to close. We have our in-camera announcements as they appear on the agenda. So I'm looking for, yes, Councillor Stoner, can I help you?
I'd like to move a motion to terminate this meeting.
Seconded by Councillor Hamilton. All in favor, motion carries.